So have you ever wondered what the difference is like between a $13 cheapo keyboard versus a $100 keyboard? I mean, sure, yeah, there's differences, but is it notable enough to justify that sort of price gap? I mean, all it has to do is just print letters to the screen, right? Well, there are some differences, especially if you're a typist or a gamer, some differences that may be beneficial to you that you may not already know. So if you're pondering that very question, I'm about to answer it in this video for you, so let's get into it. Hey, what's up guys? My name is JD from JDTechGear and welcome back to the channel. So I'm going to start with these three keyboards in these different price ranges. Of course, there's many different keyboards among all sorts of price ranges, but these three sum it up pretty well. First, we're going to start with the Xingming K26. I think that's how you say it. We're just going to call it the K26. This is a $13 keyboard that you can find on Amazon. And then we have the Motospeed K87S, which can be found for around $55. And then we have the Corsair Strafe, which is our premium grade $100 keyboard. And yes, there are keyboards much more expensive than this, but $100 is a really nice keyboard. So let's talk about these differences. Okay, so the first difference is probably pretty noticeable. It's how it actuates. What happens when you press that key. Now on the K26 keyboard, it uses rubber domes versus what the Motospeed K87 uses and the Corsair Strafe is mechanical switches. What's the difference between a rubber dome and a mechanical switch? Now some of you may already know this, but some of you may not, so I'm just going to briefly go over it. So what the difference is a rubber dome is used when the keycap comes down, has a little plastic thing on it, and it pushes down the rubber dome and it actuates, and the keyboard registers what happens, what that key press is. Now with the K87S and the Corsair Strafe, we have a mechanical switch, which is entirely physical. There's no rubber dome underneath. It's all plastic. And I know it sounds like it's cheap, but a plastic switch is a lot more high quality than what a rubber dome is. Now the primary difference between these two is its lifespan. The rubber switch is going to stretch out over time and degrade a lot faster than what a mechanical switch is going to do. Now there are different tiers of mechanical switches, like the Cherry MX switch, which is used on the Corsair Strafe, which is one of the highest end switches you can possibly get. And there's also different types of switches which can be very preferential to what type of typing experience that you like. So having those sort of options also gives you more customizability in this sort of regard. Now, even if you're just a casual user and you just surf the web, you will definitely feel a difference between a rubber switch and mechanical switch. The feeling is much different and very noticeable. And another thing for mechanical switches is they're much better for gaming, a lot lower latency and a lot faster recognition of your key presses versus what you would have with the rubber dome switch. So that's also something to keep in mind. The next big difference is the terms of build quality. There are definite differences between the lower tier and the upper tier. Now the bases of these keyboards are mostly made out of plastic, but some of them do use aluminum base plates like the Motospeed K87S. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better construction quality, but it is nice to have. Also, there are different grades of plastic like ABS plastic, which is a pretty high grade plastic that are usually used on these upper tier keyboards as well. Now, the base of the keyboard is not the only difference in terms of quality. You also have the internals of the keyboard, which uses all sorts of electrical components to recognize key presses and stuff like that. And some of them also have onboard memory to save certain profiles that may be integrated with the software that comes with the keyboard. There's a lot of different variables in that as well that goes into the quality of the keyboard. Also, you have keycaps, and keycaps can vary in terms of quality as well. You also have double molded keycaps, which use these two different molds that are of different plastics to help the longevity of the lettering on the keyboard. And that's important, especially for durability and the lifespan of the keyboard. Also, the LEDs, which backlight the entire keyboard, are also different quality as well. On the K26, we see they're pretty dim even at night, but the other keyboards, obviously, K87 is very bright and colorful. They're much easier to see at night. There's also different qualities of LEDs used in these keyboards as well that may be smoother in these animations and these customizations and the different tier of keyboards. So this is especially important when you're trying to customize your keyboard to match your setup or something, but that's mostly aesthetic, but there are differences in LED quality as well. Now the last thing in terms of quality is software integration, which does cost money to develop and does take time. So having a keyboard with integrated software is usually a pretty powerful tool. And the software that's used on cheaper keyboards versus more expensive keyboards, the more expensive keyboards have a lot more customization and a lot more features to offer for your keyboard to maximize your gaming experience or your editing profiles or gaming profiles. Now, if you're an editor and you have saved profiles for certain types of key combinations to do a specific function in like Adobe Premiere or Adobe Photoshop, this can save you a lot of time if you're using those programs a lot. And that's generally called mapping. You can map different keys to different functions, and you can save these profiles for different programs that you have. You can have onboard memory, meaning that you have some sort of basic memory that saves these profiles to the keyboard instead of saving it to the software and having to carry around the flash drive. It will be saved in the keyboard itself, so when you install it on a different computer, you don't have to bring that flash drive with you. So that's pretty cool. There's all sorts of different things that you can customize in that software that you can take full advantage of if you're very particular with the types of games that you use or software that you use or anything else that requires key combination and other things of the alike. Now, which one of these keyboards come with software? Well, it's only the Corsair Strafe. I'm sure there's a couple of keyboards out there that are around $55 that offer integrated software, but usually if they do, it's not that vast in terms of customizability and what you can do with those keys. Usually the higher end keyboards can do much more. And the last sort of minor topic to touch on is aesthetics. Like I said earlier, with those different LED qualities, you obviously have the better LED quality with the higher end keyboard. Now, the Corsair Strafe that I have is not the RGB version. The RGB version is actually $30 more. Yeah, so if you want integrated RGBs, you have that whole entire thing to consider and mess around with, and then you can customize the colors for certain keycaps if you need to know where to look and glance down at your keyboard and have them a different color to have these different color profiles for gaming and editing as well. So you can kind of use those aesthetics to your favor in that regard as well. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and if you're new here, consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.